All right. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. I see a few people in the classroom. So I want to shout out 2 for 1 Entertainment. Hello. I also see Mobile Music. So hello to Mobile Music. And I also see my dear cousin Matthew is in the classroom. So I'm so ecstatic to have everyone here. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, let's just do a quick test. Can you hear me, Mobile Music? Can you see me? All right. Hello. So just let me know that you can hear me okay, that there's, no audio issues. Okay. So I'll give you a few minutes. And while I'm waiting for you to let me know that the audio is okay, I just want to kind of go over a couple of things. If you're new here, let me say welcome. I also forget to ask you to subscribe and like. All of this is very, very new. So please, if this is your first time or you're returning, I welcome you. I thank you. If you're watching the replay, thank you. Okay, and please give us a like. We're new, we're small, and we're trying to grow. And we know that this is one of the many ways that you grow is by hitting the thumbs up, the like, the subscribe, and all the things that everybody asks you to do. It really does matter. So, 2 for 1, can you hear me okay? I'm hoping that the audio and everything sounds good. Before we get started with today's lesson, so I'm ecstatic to have everyone here. We're going to be talking about ledger lines, so we'll go into that in a few seconds. Just want to make sure that my audio is solid. Okay. And tell me where everyone is streaming from. Where are you tuning in? I'm here in cold New York City. We're going to be expecting some snow, and it's pretty chilly, very chilly. I don't like the cold weather. Sounds great. Okay, that's awesome. I am getting better and better every week. All right, so we're not going to do a lot of talking because I can talk. And we're here for learning. So if you're ready to learn, everybody put in the chat, ready to learn, so that I know that we are ready. Okay, ready to learn. Yes. Ready. Okay, NYC. Yes, NYC. Okay. And actually, when you say NYC, people have to say, well, no, you have to say the borough. So the borough of Queens. Okay. Queens is here in the house. Okay. Okay. All right. So what are we going to be working on today? Well, hopefully, if you joined us last week, you know that we talked about the bass clef, right? We talked about the lines and spaces of the bass clef, and I had given you a sneak peek. Does anyone remember what that sneak peek was? Mobile Music is ready to learn. All right. So that sneak peek was the ledger lines, right? The ledger lines. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's put up our lesson plan. So today we're going to identify the notes above the treble clef. Okay, so even though we know the music staff has 5 lines and 4 spaces, music doesn't just stop there, right? Okay, we have notes that go above the staff and even below. In this lesson, we're only going to talk about those notes that are above, okay? And then the next thing we're going to talk about is understanding ledger lines. That's a musical term, ledger lines, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, we have to learn how to read those ledger lines. So we're going to talk about reading those notes that fall above the staff, which we call ledger lines. And then we're going to have a little fun. Okay, we're going to play a little music game. Um, and, you know, just test your knowledge. Make sure you're paying attention, right? And then, of course, we're going to talk about this week's assignment, our resources at our music store, okay? So everything is in store for you. If you're new here, let me encourage you to join us as, you know, every week. We plan on doing this as often as we possibly can. Next week, we will not be live streaming, but we will have a video premiere for you. We have some family obligations, so regrettably, I can't come in live, but that doesn't mean the learning stops. You will have your lesson video available on a premium right at 10:45 Eastern Standard Time. If I didn't make it clear, I am Miss Christine, and I welcome all beginner students here to Live in the Music Room. And that's what we have in store for you today. Any questions about last week's lesson? Because every lesson sort of builds upon itself. So I want to make sure there are no questions before we move right into our lesson today. Okay, let's see. Give you a few seconds. Okay, I think everyone is ready. All right, so let's get started with our lesson on the ledger lines, okay? Today's lesson is about the ledger lines above the treble clef staff. If you join me for the last lessons, you've already learned what a musical staff is, 5 lines and 4 spaces, how to draw a treble clef and bass clef. To create the grand staff, you know that you have to take those 2 staffs and connect them by a brace. You also learned you must place notes on a staff with a clef. You've learned that we follow the first 7 letters of the alphabet, as well as how to name notes on both clefs, treble and bass clef staff. So, wow, look at all of that knowledge that you've acquired in just 3 lessons. I am so proud of you. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back because I am so proud of you. Now we're going to take it to the next step because once you learn the lines and spaces, the next question students always ask, but is that all there is? I mean, aren't there higher notes or even lower notes? Yes, and that's a great question. And in today's lesson, we're going to focus on those higher notes. Normally, notes live on the staff, on the lines and spaces, but music doesn't stop there. When notes go above the treble clef staff, we have to add small extra lines called ledger lines, okay? And ledger lines are short little lines we draw to help us read those notes. Let's see. Here are our short little lines that I'm highlighting. Okay, just so that you can see it as it's written. Now keep in mind that ledger lines are not long like the staff, right? They're just short, just allowing us to extend that staff so that we can add additional notes higher. Let's talk about that some more. So let's begin with the 5th line of the treble clef, and you should remember, let's show you. What is this note here? We have it on the 5th line. You know that we count from the bottom to the top. So if this note is on the 5th line, do you remember the letter name that we call this note here on the 5th line? Okay, good. It is note F. And you remember from our musical alphabet, right? And you also probably remember that we talked about the sentence to help you remember those line notes. Every good burger deserves fries, or you have every good boy does fine, as well as our space notes, FACE. So all of these things are going to help you as we're talking about the ledger lines. And here I have a little sample here with the E, G, B, D, F to show you the line notes. All right, so let's look at the whiteboard. Now you remember in lesson number 2, we called this note what? Good, note G, because this is the treble clef, also known as the G clef, and it curves, it circles the G line. You know your musical alphabet. so we know how to name notes. Let's continue to go upward. This is note A because we're following the music alphabet, or if you memorize them, okay? And the next note is B. Good. Then we continue moving up. We have note C. We're going to continue moving up. We have note D. We're going to continue moving up. We have note E. That is correct. And then we're going to continue moving up to note F. Now this is our highest note that we've gone so far in our lessons. Now we need to start extending the staff. We need to go above the note, above the staff. So we're going to put a note right here on top of the 5th line. And what do you think this note will be? Correct. This will be now note G. Okay? And you can see the musical alphabet. We started here on G. We went to A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, when we're talking about ledger lines, we have to extend the staff. That's where that small line that we talked about earlier. So now we have to draw our ledger line and then add our note head. Okay? And now what note do you think that is? That would be note A. Let's continue. So now the question is, before we continue, this is a line note. This is a line note. G, note G is a space note. Now you might say, well, what is a line note and what is a space note? Here are space notes. Space notes are notes that sit between the lines. Okay, they live in the space. A line note is a note where the line goes through the note. Okay, so you have to be able to distinguish between what is a line note and what is a space note. Now let's continue. So we have a space note here. Let's look at our F note. Is it a line note or a space note? Good, it is a line note. So as we're going up the scale, or up the staff, I should say, when we're going up the staff, we're alternating between a line note and a space note, a line note and a space note. So if we continue going up, we're going to add our ledger line that we had already here on note A. And now we're going to put our space note that's going to sit right on top of that ledger line, which is now note B. And that is a space note. So we see that we're honoring our musical alphabet and we're honoring the alternation of a line note to a space note. Let's continue. Hopefully you can see this. So now will we have a line note or a space note? That is correct. We know we're going to have some type of line note. Okay? And we know from our musical alphabet it has to be a C, but how do we draw or write that note C? Well, we're going to put our ledger line. We had our ledger line from note A, and we had our space note sitting right on top, which was note B, but now we have to extend that staff a little bit bigger or extend it a little bit longer, and then put our note right there for note C. Let me see if I can make it a little bit cleaner. Okay, you know, I'm drawing notes, so it's not always easy on my whiteboard. Okay, and you can see it's a line note. Okay, and of course, if we continue going even further up, we would have a note that is a space note. And I think you get the idea. All right, nice work. All right, so ledger lines simply let us keep reading notes using the same musical alphabet, right? We have A, B, C, D, E, F, and now here we're in G. We're above that 5th line, and now our ledger lines start to come in, and they're following that musical alphabet. We just extend the staff by drawing ledger lines, these short, small lines above the staff. Now, you can have notes below the staff, but for today's lesson, we're only talking about the line notes and space notes that are above the staff, those ledger lines, okay? Because this is a beginner's course and we want to make things very simple for you. Next lesson, we'll talk about the notes that fall below the staff, alrighty? So great job. So ledger lines are not scary. You know, I've had students tell me, oh, it's hard to read. And yes, it takes some getting used to. You know, music is all about practice. Like with anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But they simply let the staff just keep going when the music gets higher, okay? And we talked a lot about that. All right, you know that we honor the musical alphabet and we continue to use the line note, space note. We alternate between a line note and a space note as we're gradually going up the staff. All right, so try to practice that. You'll find it very useful. And just keep up the good work. You're doing so well. So there you have it. In this lesson, you learned that notes don't stop at the top of the staff, right? When notes go above the staff, we use ledger lines. Ledger lines are those short, extra lines that help us read higher notes. And we can name those notes by continuing that musical alphabet, line note, space note, above the treble clef staff, all right? Now, if you felt that this lesson was very helpful, I encourage you to go to our music store and download the lesson booklet. There you'll find the booklet and everything that we discussed in this lesson. And if you want a real challenge, you can download the workbook and the quiz right there at the school store. Let me give you the link. Here you can go to our school store and download all the resources right there. Our workbook, our lesson booklet, and the quiz if you're feeling like you want a little bit of a challenge and really get those ledger lines that are above the treble clef staff solid, okay? So nice work, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, so now it's time to see if you were paying attention. We're going to play a little game, but before we play the game, I want to make sure that you have any questions. Ledger lines can seem a little tricky because you are no longer on those 5 lines and 4 spaces, right? And so now you have to really study the notes. But with practice, like with anything, you will get better. Now, we talked about ledger lines in this lesson, right? But let's just look at the staff, and hopefully you can see my screen. Everybody's okay? Okay, I thought there was a question. So right here, you can hear this. We have note E, right? Because you know that we started at the bottom staff, line 1. We had line 1, which was note E. And then do you remember the next note? What would be the next note? That note on space 1. On space 1. Okay, you can put it in the chat. And that would be F, right? We're going to go all the way up to the notes that we talked about so far. And then if we go further up, the next note is now on a line note, and that is on the second line. Do you remember that note? That was G. Good. Okay. And now we continue going up. What's the next letter name? Okay. Good. Let's see. I see F, and I know things are coming in a little bit late. So this is A. We were on G. Now we went up to A, which is a space note. And now we're going up to B, right? We're still on the staff. These are things that we learned in lesson number 2. Good, good, good. What's the next note? A space note. This is C. Good. And you can see we're going from a line note to a space note to a line note to a space note and that musical alphabet. So what would the next note be? D, D. Look how we're going up that staff. Keep going. What's the next letter name? All right. Yes, that's E. That's that top fourth space. Okay. And the fifth line on the treble clef is note F. Now, as you already learned in the lesson, this was the highest note that we went up so far. But now we're going to continue going up. And if you know your musical alphabet, you already know that note G is the next note. Here's G, sitting right above the fifth line. That's a space note. Now, what would be the next note if you were paying attention? Here we are on G. What would be the next note? Good. Listen, A, A. And you see the ledger line. You see the ledger line. All right. And now let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right, let's go. So after A comes B in the musical alphabet, and we have a ledger line. Look at that ledger line. You can see it in the print form. I was handwriting my notes, but now you can actually see it here on my screen. Okay, and that's note B. Let's keep going up. Let's go up. Let's go up. And the next note is good, C. All right, now that's as far as we went in our video, but you obviously can go even higher. There's note D. Even higher, note E, which is a line note. Even higher, note F. And of course, even higher. Look at all of those ledger lines. Wow, you know. So it can just continue to go further up. All right, nice work. All right, so any questions so far about what we talked about thus far? Any questions? Any questions? All right, because we're going to have a little quiz, or I should say a little music game. All right, a little music game. All right, I'm going to get my little marker here, and we're going to come on over. I'll give you a little review. Make sure you kind of understand, because this can be challenging. And I know, okay, Mobile Music, you have a question? Wonderful. I welcome all questions, okay? Please, this is how you learn. Other people may have a question. Let's see. What is your question, Mobile Music? Okay. And while Mobile Music is getting, okay, so the question is, if you have to add a lot of lines, would that push you into another clef? Absolutely. So depending on how many ledger lines, so that the music doesn't look cluttered, right? Because everything you want nice and clean as you're reading as a musician, you may find that you will start to go into, it's better to notate. Let me just say that if you're composing music and you have all of these ledger lines, it can be very, very difficult for the musician to read that clearly, and it's easier to just go into another clef. As we talk about the ledger lines and the bass clef, you will see that depending on how high, it's just easier to go right into the treble clef. Or if we're going down the treble clef, then it's easier, depending on how many ledger lines, to just go into the bass clef. Let me see if I can demonstrate for you. Okay, so here we have, it's a great question, by the way, Mobile Music. So let's go back to the to our staff here. So here we're on E. Now this is not what we talked about today. We'll be talking about notes that are below the treble clef staff, but because the question came in, I like to answer it so that you have a clear understanding. So here we have E. We're on the treble clef staff, right? You can see it here. But then if I start to go down, D, right? We didn't talk about that, but you know your musical alphabet. So what letter would come next, even if you don't know how to write it yet? Good. This is now middle C, and we're not going to go into too much detail because this is lesson number 5 next week. But now middle C, and then we keep going down B, and you can see my notation software took us right into the bass clef staff, right? But typically, we would still be in our bass clef. So depending on how many ledger lines? Yes, it will take you into another clef. I hope that makes sense, and it will make more sense as we learn the different clefs with those ledger lines. Wonderful question, Mobile Music. And any other questions, please put them in, okay? People are still slowly coming into the room. I see you. I know you're going to be watching this on the replay. So don't be bashful. Please say hello. Put a comment in. Give a like. That's how we know that you're enjoying what we're doing. Okay. All right. So a few more questions. I should say many questions. We're going to play our little music game. And then I'm going to talk about your homework for this week. Okay. And this is just to help you. All right. All of these resources are free. All righty. So let's have some more fun. Let's have some more fun. So here's a question. Should be very easy. Okay. The first question is this note a line note or a space note? That was something that was discussed in the lesson video. Is it a line note or a space note? Is it a line note or a space note? I'll put line note or space note. Okay. And let's see. Give you some few seconds. I'm glad you can afford free. All right, line note. Okay, that's pretty easy. But now, how do you know it's a line note? Okay, I see that you have line, but how do you know it is a line note? How would you explain that if you were a music teacher? Okay, how would you explain that to your students? This is a line note, but it's not just giving the right answer, it's knowing how to explain your answer, right? If you were in a math class and they said 2 + 2 is 4, well, that's great, but how did you get to 4? You have to be able to explain your answer. So how do you know that this note, which we haven't talked about what the letter name is a line note? Okay, how do you know it's a line note? Okay. Yes, because the line is going through it. Okay, let me just put a little dash here, little dots. And the line is going through it. Now, question number 2. What is the name of this note? What is the name of this note? Okay, what is the name of the note? We're going to be going up. 14 seconds. Okay. All right. Okay, it is note G. Note G. Okay, here we go. Next question. Is it a space? 2 questions. Is it a space note or a line note? And tell me the letter name. Okay, all in 30 seconds. Yes, it's going to start to get a little harder. I want to know, is it a line note? Is it a space note? And what is the letter name? Okay. So let's put line note or space note and letter name. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yes, it is a space note and it is note A. And of course, how do you know that it is a space note? Okay. How do you know it is a space note? Because it is sitting between the 2 lines or living in the space, however you want to describe it, as long as you can distinguish between a line note and a space note. All right, we're going to keep going on, keep going. All right, name this next note here, this one here. We're going to move up to our ledger lines as well. The line is on the 3rd, the note is on the 3rd line, okay? Here we go. Name that note. I have my little arrow there. Okay. Doing so well. Okay. 8 seconds. Okay. What is this note? All right, good. That is note B, and it is a line note. Okay, very simple, but this is a beginner's class. Okay, we're going to make sure you fully understand things. We're not going to assume, okay, because everybody has a whole different background when it comes to music, and we don't want to assume you know something and you don't. Okay, here we go. Name this note, please. It's on the third space, and go, go, go. All right, here we go, here we go. Yes, it is a line. Okay, come on. Name this note on the third space. Okay. And the music is supposed to encourage you to answer quickly. All right. Beautiful. C, a space note. Good. Okay. Next, the fourth line, and go. The fourth space. This is the treble clef. Name that note. Is it a space note? Is it a line note? Okay. Here we go. Excellent, excellent. All right. This is note D, and it is a line note. Okay, I think you're getting the hang of this. All right, we're going up the scale. I keep saying scale, but we're going up the staff. Okay, we haven't talked about scales yet. All right, so what is the fourth space here? What is this fourth space, this note here? All right, and go. It's on the fourth space. Here we go. Fourth space. All right. A few more seconds. 10 seconds. All right. Yes, that is note E, and it is a what? A space note. Okay, whoops. Okay, I was going to put line note, but now I meant to put space note here. This is a space note. Okay. Now, come on. What is this top note? Fifth line, working our way up. Okay. Fifth line. Line note, space note. What is the letter name? What is the letter name? All right, letter name. Okay, whoops. 4 seconds. Okay, if you said F is correct. It is a line note. Okay, now we're above the staff. Are you getting a little scared? Don't be scared. All right, name that note. Here we go. Right here. Is it a space note? Is it a line note? What is the name of that note? What is the name of that note? This is the treble clef staff. All right, and if you're watching on the replay, you can put your answers in the chat. Okay? All right. This is a great review also. All right. So if you said note G and it is a space note. Okay. All right. Now here is our ledger line. Okay. And you can tell me, is it a line note or a space note? Go. All right. Here's our ledger line. Let's see if you were paying attention. We have a note here. Okay. What is the name of this note? What is the name of this note? Okay. We have a ledger line. What is the name? Oops. Okay. Yes, that is A. A. Okay, and it is a line note, okay? It is a ledger line, but it's still a line note, okay? Let's keep going. What is this next note? We have another ledger line. We just, because now we're beyond the staff, okay? So now we have to draw ledger lines. So what is that name? What is the name of that note? Right here. Okay, this is note A. It's a line note. What is the name of the note next to it? Is it a space note? Okay. Come on. Okay, I see some answers coming in. All right. So if you said note B, is it a space note? It is a space note. Okay, this is a space note. And our last note, but that doesn't mean the note's in. It's just, that's the last note on my staff. What is this note here? What is this note here? Okay, I put it on the, actually playing it here on the keyboard. What is that note there? Okay. And is it a line note or a space note? Okay. All right. So, okay. And I know there are some delays coming in. So if it's, I want to make sure that you know what note we're asking. Okay. This is this note here. Hold on. Let me get my microphone together. Okay. So the note that we're asking for is this note here. Okay. Let me get my marker. Oops. I think my microphone is coming out. Okay. So, you know, they say this is live, right? And so what can go wrong goes wrong, but that's okay. All right. So this is the note that we're asking. This is note C. Okay. And this is a line note. All righty. That's a line note. Here we go. Let me see if I can show this to you. Here we go. Here's our note C. Okay, and we have pitch classes, which we'll talk about, which we call this C6. Okay, these are pitch classes. Once we learn all the notes, we'll talk about pitch class so that you can find your way around whether the keyboard or if you're singing. Okay, because I can't wait for us to do some singing. That is my true love. Okay, so that is C6 or our high C. Okay, for ledger lines, that is the note that we're talking about. Don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, that was wonderful. Any questions before I say my goodbyes? Okay, before I say my goodbyes, I want to make sure I answer as many questions as I possibly can regarding ledger lines. This week, we only talked about the notes above the treble clef staff. Next week, we'll talk about the notes below, okay? Below. And so obviously the notes are going to get lower. And we'll then the following week, we'll talk about the bass clef. There will be no live lesson next week, but there will be a video lesson for you, okay? So even though I won't be physically here, I will still give a lesson video for your for your needs so that you can continue to study. We don't want to stop the momentum. All right. Any questions before I say my goodbyes? I want to encourage everyone to check out our resources here. Let me see. Any questions? Okay. Make sure you check out our store for our lessons and our booklet and our workbook and our quiz. Okay, these are all free. Okay, all you have to do is put your information in, like your name and your email, so that we know where to send it. And it goes right to you, and you can practice your ledger lines. You can practice your treble clef lines and spaces. You can practice your bass clef. You can practice drawing your treble clefs and your bass clefs and your grand staffs. So these are all things that you've learned so far, and we've only had 4 lessons. Okay, 4 lessons, and look at all of this knowledge that you have acquired. All right, well, it's been wonderful. I love coming in, saying hello. I love welcoming everyone. If you're watching on the replay, thank you. We have about 10 people here, and I want to say thank you for watching, coming in. I want to say thank you for watching the replay. And if there's no further questions, I'm going to say my goodbyes. Let me give you a few more seconds to see if you have any questions for me. Questions? All right. So let me put in the chat, thank you so much. It really means a lot. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say my goodbyes. Happy Saturday, or early good morning, or good evening, good night, wherever you're watching. I say thank you, and remember to keep music in your heart. All right. Okay. Talk to you soon, and I'll see you in the next lesson.